Hello, this is the daily COVID update from Deccan Herald. I am Akhil. On the bulletin today, Karnataka registers 257 new cases. The Supreme Court weighs in on two orders passed during the lockdown, and venture capitalist and former director at Infosys, Mohandas Pai, sounds a word of caution regarding the startup ecosystem.
Angels have been deeply hurt. See, I worry about seed, and sadly, the government of India has not been helpful at all. I wish Mr. Sitaraman will listen to this broadcast and try to do something, because you're stacking the odds against all the angels.
But first, a look at the daily figures. India currently has over 110,000 active cases of the novel coronavirus. The Worldometer info statistics show that India is the third fastest country reporting new COVID-19 infections world over after Brazil and the United States. A look at the national news before the numbers from Karnataka. The Supreme Court said today that a middle ground must be found to protect the interests of contractual workers and employees, as well as a group of companies which has opposed the union government's orders to pay full salaries for 54 days during the nationwide lockdown. The union government had issued an order for wages to be paid without any deductions during the first phase of the lockdown on March 29th, but has subsequently revoked it on May 17th. The top court directed that no coercive action should be taken against the companies until June 12th, when it would pronounce its judgment on a batch of petitions questioning the validity of the March 29th order issued under the Disaster Management Act. The Supreme Court also heard another matter related to the announcements made during the lockdown. This time it was a moratorium announced by the RBI on loans. The Apex Court questioned the RBI's decision to charge interest on the loans despite a moratorium. In its reply to a PIL filed by Gajendra Sharma, the RBI has told the court that its decision granting a moratorium on loan repayment was only to defer the payment obligations, and it declined to grant any forced interest waiver on loan moratorium, saying it would risk not only the financial viability of the banks, but would also put the interests of the depositors in jeopardy. Furthermore, it would hurt banks by as much as rupees 2 lakh crores or 1% of the GDP, it said. Moving on to the numbers from Karnataka, 257 new cases report from the state today, 10 less than yesterday. Of these, 149 cases are attributed to those who have entered the state from Maharashtra. All the cases from Udupi, Hassan, Mandya are from among those who have come in from Maharashtra. Raichur, meantime, has reported a surprising mix of cases today. 30 cases are primary contacts of patient 2612, while 46 others are linked to other previously diagnosed patients. The other districts have also reported cases from Maharashtra. The count of primary contacts of previously diagnosed patients is also higher than the past few days. There have been 4 deaths in the state today. The youngest is a 44-year-old man from Gadag who was diagnosed with influenza-like illness as well as UTI, as he passed away due to sepsis and bronchopneumonia. The others are between the age group of 60 to 83 years, while 2 present as symptoms of severe acute respiratory infection. The last among the 4 died due to severe metabolic acidosis with renal failure. While this, Karnataka has recorded over 4,320 cases of the novel coronavirus this year. The state currently has 2,651 active cases and has recorded 57 deaths. A new ELISA antibody testing kit designed by Biocon's research arm Syngene could potentially alter just how the state carries out testing in the future. While the RT-PCR method takes up to 8 hours to deliver results on nasal samples, ELISA, short for enzyme-linked immunoassay kits, can deliver results within 3 hours. Virologists and epidemiologists have been clamoring for the technology, as it can be used to rapidly test large chunks of the population for subclinical infection or early stage or mild infection to determine how many people are safe from the virus. The kits will be sent to the National Institute of Virology, Pune, for validation. Meantime, in Bengaluru, BBMP officials have clarified that the decision to stop random testing in Padranipura, a containment zone, was taken after a suggestion from the expert committee that random testing was not viable, as the 1,000 samples yielded just 6 or 7 positive results. The BBMP has decided to test only symptomatic SARI and ILI residents of the area and primary and secondary contacts on the 12th day of quarantine, irrespective of their symptoms, ruling out fears of community transmission. Moving on, our series of conversations looking to the future, around 50% of startups will shut shop in Bengaluru post the pandemic, according to experts. The main challenge for almost all startups right now is to extend the runway, which translates to preserving cash until normalcy returns and demand picks up. My colleague Samiksha Goel spoke to venture capitalist and former Infosys director Mohandas Pai to get a sense of what is going on in the startup space in Bengaluru.
Hello, Mr. Pai. Thank you for joining us.
Hi.
Firstly, if you could tell me, how has COVID-19 impacted the startup ecosystem in Bangalore?
Well, the startup ecosystem in Bangalore is very large, about 9,000 startups. There's a Bangalore report released by the techies of Bangalore. You must read that. And 9,000 startups. It's got some 18 unicorns, and about $5.5 billion came in last year. About $30 billion has come in the last maybe 6 years. So it's a very large ecosystem. Out of this, maybe 60% are very small startups, and many of them don't have enough cash because they're all started in garages by people who have very little money. And they were all hoping to raise money. Raising money has become very difficult now with COVID for the last nearly 4 months. And so obviously, we all fear what is going to happen to them. We have been talking to government to make sure that there is funding coming in. But I think it is a tight situation. But there are many companies which have done well because they're in the digital space. So I would say the startup ecosystem is coming of age. And when this settles down, people will be betting on those who are scaled up, who have been able to work. There will be a shakeout. And the shakeout will be all for the better. And I think Bangalore should now enter the next phase for startups and innovation.
How has funding been impacted in the whole situation, Mr. Pai?
I saw a report that last 2 months funding has been almost zero. See, even the venture capitalists are holding on to the cash and sitting down and watching who are going to succeed. They don't want to pour money, and most of them are interested in giving money to their own companies which are doing well, or maybe saving some of them who need money desperately because they're good companies. And some others, they let go. They will not invest because they say, look, we got so much of money. Where will we get the greatest return? So now they're taking very hard decisions based on their own analysis and estimation of how the market will turn out. So I think it's a shakeout.
What about new pitches? Have you seen them coming down?
Yes, there have been many new pitches because now there are many innovative people who are looking at how COVID is coming, how habits have changed, what has happened. They're coming out with new ways of doing it. So I think it's exciting. We are watching it, but it's taking time. Because for a new pitch, you have to be in a frame of mind where you're willing to take the risk. So unless it's very, very good, you feel excited about it, it's some new technology which can rapidly change or disrupt something others are doing, you'll be cautious.
Right. Mr. Pai, is there going to be a change in the way the industry works post the pandemic?
Well, I think there'll be a change. Like I said, there'll be a flight to quality. There'll be a flight to quality that spray and pray approach of many people will come down. And the angels have been deeply hurt. See, I worry about seed because once you've been around for 3 or 4 years, that you got enough time, you got capital, you do well, etc. That's why we need platforms like Less Venture and others to really take off. And the angels have given capital. And sadly, the government of India has not been helpful at all. They've got levied capital gains at 28% on startups for long-term capital gains after 2 years. They increase the surcharge by 37% for income above 5 crores. I mean, I wish Mr. Sitaraman will listen to this broadcast and try to do something because you're stacking the odds against all the angels. See, the angels play a very critical role in giving seed capital, where the big funds don't want to put small amounts of money. So the angels are important. And for the angels, the tax policy has to be favorable. The tax policy is very perverse and adverse for them, and that is hurting the ability. So today, some of these young startups go to angels and tell money. They'll think deeply. Should I put money into the liquid stock markets? I should have put money here because the stock markets, some very, very good companies' value has come down and they'll make very good money if they hold on for a year. Whereas in all this startup, they got to hold on for 3 or 4 years. The risks are higher. The returns could be higher. But if the tax is so much high, then obviously on the risk-adjusted, tax-adjusted basis, you may think, is this something to do? So we need to change the tax policy. The tax policy is very perverse and adverse. And I hope Ms. Sitaraman, who's our MP from Bangalore, she's our MP, please remember, okay? She has to do something for us. I hope she does it.
You can watch the full interview on our brand new series, Startup Capital, this weekend on all our social media handles. In the meantime, that's all from us today. For the latest updates, log on to deccanherald.com. Stay safe and we'll see you tomorrow.